And then it's like, if you go to in Tibet, it's like 4 schools. Gaju, Nima, Sasha, Gelu, it doesn't matter. Now in these days, it's like this book is like if you go to the India, Nepal, and many Buddhist countries, it doesn't matter. Each schools, they love to the Patrul Rinpoche because he was wonderful, wonderful. After he passed away, there's some reincarnation called, I'm not sure, maybe someone's very much fake. And in this case, like, I hope it's something there is the same as him, is a communism. Some reincarnations is very funny. But it's like the first one is the Dzogchen Patrul Rinpoche, the Dzap Patrul Rinpoche. That one's really, everybody is emulating. It's like reading his biographers, almost many people's crying. And many people love him very much. It's not only in my school. All the school, everybody want. Even his many, it's like hundreds of students is like followers. He sometimes is older. You know, it's like some his students become very arrogant, something. Then it's very much problems. But his best student, Nyosha Lonto, 25 years almost he was with him. Rinpoche, Lonto is a very powerful guide. But he ordered to the Nyosha Lonto, you should to become the very rich Lama. It looks like Lama, but looks like king. You should to do like this. And then he's become like this. Nyosha Lonto, sometimes like he has 40, 30, 100 maybe servers, lot of horse, wearing like kind of the expensive clothes, and like a lot of attendants. Sometimes he's crying and says, my peerless teachers, why he ordered to me like this? I don't want to be in this kind of complications. I want to become same as him. But then he ordered to me, it's like this, maybe it's like someone's like become same as him. And many his students is like because then this like very much. Therefore, we can to emulate some on the past great human beings. There is a compassionate realizations, good persons. That is the very important great beings on the past. And also they studied the human existence. They did the perfect, precious human beings. They studied the impermanent, and they realized their own true nature of the realities. They become the mastery of their own impermanent, and they studied the causalities. They like kind of become the best practitioner taking care of the causalities. And also it's like they understood the next destination of the some six, the realms. They understood, and according to this, they have such a compassion, they have such a kind of the diligently to practice Dharma, and then they become same level of the Buddha. I hope everybody's want like to be. My wish is all of you become like this. And then last sentences is like Patrul Rinpoche say like this. This is impermanence is the everywhere, yet I still thinking things will last. And he says like impermanent is everywhere, outer, outer, inner, secret, everywhere there is a permeated. He should to realize that impermanent, but still his thinking is forever. This is not Patrul Rinpoche, but it's like kind of our situations like this. I have reached the gates of the older age, yet I still presented I'm a young, absolutely truth. And like this is like, how do you say, in my situations, I'm just telling to you, 56 years old, sometimes, but still it's like mind is, feeling is young, feeling is like, oh, I'm still, it's like I have a life. And I make joke, it's like, oh, this house mortgage is finished. Maybe now I want to buy one, it's like maybe apartment in Benjamin. And then I was thinking it's like, maybe you can to make a mortgage or to borrow money from the bank maybe 4 or 5 years because of the age. Maybe bank say, sorry, you are too old, we don't want to lend money. And then you think, I'm not that old. And they say, oh, sorry, 56, 7 years old is quite old. But still it's thinking, it's like kind of the long life, forever, for last, and nothing to preparing. This kind of, you cannot to become like this. Really it's like very important to think about a little bit old age. Now I'm older age, to reduce the like the way of the concerning the worldly, and to be kind, to be cheerful, to be happy, to make the accomplishment of the Dharma. And bless me and misguide beings like me. Of course, it's like this, please, compassionate to bless me. And really, it's like I need these blessed energies, because misguided, like being like me, this kind of, not really is like kind of, Patrul himself, he's taking the like kind of low profile, but he's not like this, but kind of them sending message to us that we may truly understand impermanence. It is like really, maybe it's a time to time, and it's to analyze, maybe meditating, but this analytical meditation you can to say, analyze, outer is a universe is impermanent. Of course, I'm impermanent. I need to accomplish quickly Dharma. I need to develop my compassion and wisdoms. Inner sentient beings also impermanent. I am impermanent, 100%, and I need to develop compassion, wisdoms, and need to prepare my impermanent. And also my relatives, my like kind of the domestic animals, wherever I watch, in the four seasons, beings, powerful, rich, everything is there is like impermanent. I fully convinced, or how do you say, it's like permeatedly, or like determinedly to understand realization of the impermanent. Then I want to practice Dharma right now, maybe say. These are the institutions on the impermanent of the life, and maybe say, good luck, thanks for your finish it. And then is maybe if you have some questions, you are very welcome. Yes.
J'aimerais que vous rappeliez la différence que vous faites entre la conscience et l'esprit.
Could you remind us, please, about the difference between consciousness and mind?
Maybe mind is maybe general name. General this name. Of course, it's like a mind is also is a. Why we call the mind is the mind. Why we call the mind is a consciousness, and that is a. We need to, of course, yes, need to study. And also it's like really our mind is it. The meaning is like in the body, there is one perceiver, happy and sorrow. There is some inside our body. And that ones we are searching what it is. And then it's like we call the mindset. Mind means, and this one is can to remind, mind. In Tibet is like kind of the same. That means it's like, for example, if I saw that like think something, afterwards I can to think, I can to remind, I can to think. And also it's like according that, here is that we have physically in the machine, there is like kind of the organ. And this organ's name is the also heart. I mean, this is heart. It sometimes according that also is like the mind. But it's the why we call that this receiver of the feeling mind, because this the receiver of the feelings can to think, can to remember, can to presently also to mind. And in the future, so also to you can to think, remind something, I need to do something, this and that. And then we call like this. And when you call the consciousness also is like, there is a little bit kind of the different perspective in the maybe in our Europeans language, why they call the conscious. Maybe this receiver of this inside happy and sorrow, and these ones can conscious. You know, you can conscious this mandala, you can kind of the conscious something you can to understand, you can to study, you can to like kind of the repeat again, you can to remember, and maybe it's you can think about in the futures. It's like there's a conscious cognizers, and there's kind of the like reminders. And maybe it's like this. And also in Tibet, it's why you are the conscious, called the consciousness, because most time it's come from traveling. This consciousness, this perceiver of the sense and insight, and this one can come, it's like come from the past, can be present, it can go to in the futures. And it's kind of the traveling. But our body is not like this. It is the one we died, is completely disappeared. And this last body is not brought to here. For example, yesterday our body cannot to bring to here because it's disappeared. Today body is we cannot to bring tomorrow. If we can to logically look, if we can to bring, maybe it's we can, then it's a child, maybe some in the fresh body we can do all the time carrying. It's impossible. Each picosecond they are changing, and it's the different, and like this. And then it's like this inner, this perceiver is traveling to, is like a past, present, futures, and then we call the consciousness. And but its reality is very much, is like similarity. There is like called the different name. Both is, this is the name of the inner perceiver of the everything. For example, you see any kind of form, appearances, or I can to see that. Who can to see? This inner, there is one beings. You cannot to reality, you can't to give name because you never saw the shape, color, dimension, and the size, never ever. And once it's like a science, I like kind of talk, neurologist, and this person is a science. If you say it's like, okay, like in the brain, there's a brain, different brains. Or maybe it is like inside ourselves, based like the building block, the tiny particle, antiparticles, electricity. Maybe then this like the electricity is inside. Some electricity is kind of to receive. Like that is the your consciousness. This is like mind. If you say like, okay, this electricity is very special. This electricity can you give education, give you answer, remember the past, like this. That is, I say, wonderful. Okay, maybe electricity. Now I have questions. My computer has electricity. My cup is also has electricity. My table also has electricity. Without things electricity, no existence. And this electricity in my brain is electricity. What is the difference? One the electricity can speak, can to remember, can to think about future. One electricity can't. I talk to this electricity, or it's like computers talk to them. No, you need to specifically to put inside some programmers like this. For example, these days, a robot. You know, in Japan, you go to, there's one like robot. You go to front, hide and then there's a camera. But sometimes behind there is one person, you know, to play. And sometimes you put, there is the laser scanner. You different to put the programmers. And then it's like, then it's like reality. It's absolutely unanimated. Also itself has electricity. And then you can to say, what is the difference? You said, How we can to say. Therefore, mind is not elitist, 100%. Mind connect to the elitist. Mind is maybe produced, that is like, also elitist is the, maybe come from the mind, you can to say. Why not? That is like, you say particle, empty particle, and maybe it's elitist. This is the, comes from the luminosity aspect, and then the essence nature is emptiness. But connect to the mind, that mind is like this. And then it's like this inner, there is like receiver of the feeling. When we are at the happy times, we go inside to check where it is. It's difficult. Even the science, even any kind of the science, how you can do it? They go to inside, they cannot go to inside. That moment, for example, someone's like a tornado is coming, they fly inside. And the very indestructible machines they made, and then go to inside to fly to check in just the air, nothing. And the tsunami is coming, maybe they go to inside, someone is beings there. Volcano coming is like this. These days technology very well, fantastic, they can go there, but they want to check the mind is almost impossible. And then it's like now science to say is that really the mind is not body, mind is not brain, mind is not physical heart. Mind is completely something different energies. And now they also accepted like this. And therefore, maybe consciousness, mind, when you call it soul, brain, physical heart, it's like a different type of the name. With different searchers to give the different name, it is like this. For example, of course, the reasonable name. I'm often to examples. For example, when you say the news, how they can collect. Many, even the Europeans, they don't know. I'm very sorry, but you know, news, we have 4 letters. And they create a dictionary, create the terminology, they create news, says 4 directions. And it's like, I think it's north, and then it's after, what is it? E is eastern, and then it's the W, western, and is the south. And then this collected for is, then you can choose the news, it's a very reasonable, because news has come from the 4 directions. And then they create this vocabulary, then it's become the well-known, that everybody use news. But in reality, this now is news. Is if you ask how to create, I don't know, it's just news. But they call it, like same, when they are someone's give the consciousness, how you give consciousness, this receiver? Because these receivers can conscious to understand, and maybe we can to call the consciousness. Why you call the mind? Because these ones can think, you know. It's like mind is a reminder. I need to remember. It's like this. This inside this being, I don't know, we can do beings can to remember past, present, think about. Then someone's called the mind. Someone's called the heart. Why? Because this one's most important, the organ. It's the mind is really living in the heart. The heart is like, in the ancient times, it's like really our vital. It's most important is the heart. And also it's like first our science is to follow the heart, and then it's the earth in the middle, sun and the moon is going to round. And then it's more developed and like this, next like kind of more Greek. And some our sciences, they say, no, this one's not important. This one is important. And then we can tell the kind of the Brahmanism. This is in the new science, they say, oh, no. Sun is in the middle, and other planet is going to round. That is more deep, more profound. But also they only believe the brain, but it's a heart is also coming down. Now, if you say, so what do you mean mind? They call the brain. And like this, there's just a different, it's just a name. Reality is both, its name is inside there's being. Okay, do you have other question? Yes.
Yes, could you please clarify, Rinpoche, this verse, page 77, it's in the quotation of Padam Pasangye. The renunciates of home and country know no shame. So, what is the meaning of this sentence?
Because someone's like you go to the different countries, okay? You live in your homeland. If you live in the homeland, you can't do some, it's like funny, negative things. You should be ashamed. But you go to abroad, someone, and then what you do is nobody knows you, nobody knows. Then it's your like moral discipline completely finished. This one. They're no shameless, then they do funny things. I often make the jokes, it's Japanese. If you go to Japan, everybody's arigato, very, very, it's like a discipline. And then coming to in Europe, free, they do become crazy. Like this, okay? Maybe now it's like to, okay, I'm offering to you this reading transmission. And do you have some short Hondo text?